Hey, 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 hey. Crash. Crash again. Hey, Bitsy Lou Who. I wasn't sure if you'd make it or not. What's happening is I keep wrecking my. Hey, Princess. I love you. I'm trying to get it together, Princess. Jeez Louise. Bunch of bossy women. Is everybody staying warm? 67 here in my room. Hey, Reese. What you doing, Bubba? It's 34 outside and 67 in here. Loves my hair. She's getting ready to hate it because I'm getting ready to whack it all back off. Y'all ready for tonight? Streetlights should be here in just a little bit. I saw where she went on and y'all about ready for me to get started? Miss Shirley, you staying warm? You and your kitty cat up there staying warm? Fancy some music time? Okay. Figured since it was a Christmas song and I didn't want to play Christmas music, but since it's a Christmas story, I would throw on some music. So, something light-hearted, nothing heavy. Now, I got these shoes. Anything else up? I ask you if you were staying warm with your kitty cat up there. Okay, let's hope it doesn't try to sign me in again. It keeps trying to sign me into Microsoft for some reason. I don't want to. Okay, y'all ready now? Uh-oh. Somebody go get rid of him. Oh, Dixie's on the ball. I figured she had her hands full with Hulk. Okay. And no, ma'am, I am not staying warm at the moment. Okay. Dear Santa, I don't know why I'm writing this. It's not like I've ever truly believed in the magic of Christmas. But what do I have to lose? My mother can't look at me. My father doesn't know whose side to take. And my sister is in total denial of everything. Life hasn't always been that great, you know. I never really felt like I fit in anywhere. And my parents always denied my sister and me the joys of any holiday, including Christmas and birthdays. Maybe, just maybe, leave. Yes, that's my Christmas wish. Natalie St. Clair. Dear Natalie, be careful what you wish for. Oh, 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 Santa. Prologue. The night was dark and clear, with only white flakes falling from the sky to indicate direction. If the flakes fell from top to bottom, one knew immediately which way was up and which way was down. There were no street lights, no road signs, no stores or marketplaces to stand as a corner landmark to tell someone whether to turn right or left. There was only the snow reflecting the full moon, and countless snow-covered pine trees stood upright in fields surrounding at least one crystalline lake. If one were to look up, it would be impossible to distinguish stars from flakes until they landed upon one's forehead and cheeks, the burning sensation equal to both fire from a star and ice from a snowflake. And then there was the silence. The silence seemed unnatural, except for the subtle sound of merriment, carrying itself on the winter wind. Happy voices and cheerful laughter seasoned the crisp air like peppermint candy swirled into freshly whipped cream. Made peppermint candy swirled into freshly made whipped cream. It didn't seem out of place, but it had to come from somewhere. If one were to follow the voices on that certain night, and peek inside a frosted window, one would find a party in a workshop. Tables that were once in the middle of the shop had been pushed to the sides of the room. People danced to the lively music played by a small band standing on a round table at the front of the room. Everyone wore their best green dresses and shorts with matching shirts. Red and white striped tights were clean and straight, and the bakers had contributed delicious tarts and cookies. Nobody would have noticed a small child, perhaps about 4 years old, toddle out from the nursery upstairs at all. But the small child noticed everything, from the paper streamers held in place by magic holly berries to the fiddlers on the table, and her wide eyes filled with candy canes that seemed to dance. She scurried along the side of the wall, avoiding dancers and revelers, and slipped into the next room. Not one person saw her slip into the back seat of the gleaming red sleigh with gilded edges, where she could still watch the adults in the workshop, filling her imagination with sights and sounds she would never forget. While preparing the sleigh for its flight the next day, Christmas Eve, Not one person thought to look underneath the furs in the back seat where she was sound asleep. Chapter 1. Natalie parked her car in front of a modest brick home and groaned. It was the second month of the month, time for her monthly breakfast with her parents. As usual, she was not looking forward to the 90-minute appointment, but she couldn't very well stay hiding in her car, so she quickly checked herself in the mirror and stepped out into the brisk fall air. The leaves fell from the trees, and Natalie noticed some neighbors had begun stringing up Christmas lights, something her parents would never do. She snorted. Sherry and Martin St. Clair had never decorated their home for any holiday, nor had they ever permitted gifts. Natalie frowned and went up to the door and rang the bell. "You're late," Sherry said as she opened the door. "We thought you weren't coming." Natalie stood there, wondering if she would be permitted to enter. "I was stuck behind a train, Sherry. It's only 5 minutes." Natalie had never called Sherry mom or mother. From the time the St. Clairs had adopted another little girl, they had insisted on being Sherry and Martin. Sherry's mouth pressed into a thin line, making her lips disappear. "Very well, come in then." She stepped aside, allowing her to cross the threshold. Natalie entered the house where she had grown up. There were no warm feelings, no rush of sentimentality that often comes over a person when walking into their family home. Only a sense of resolution. This would be her last obligatory meal with the St. Clairs. Her sister had been fortunate to earn a full-ride scholarship to college. Once she graduated high school, she left the St. Clair home and never looked back. Chloe and Natalie regularly texted and emailed, but to Chloe, the St. Clairs didn't exist anymore. Natalie hadn't been selected. Monthly breakfast began the month after graduation. Natalie followed Sherry into the dining room, unsurprised to see Martin already eating while reading the newspaper. The cherry dining table had the usual selection of fruit and croissants, but there were eggs and bacon too, which made Natalie suspicious. Sherry always attempted hospitality when they were about to do something especially out of character. A strange expression crossed Sherry's face. "Sit down, Natalie, and have something to eat." Natalie realized Sherry was attempting to smile. Something was definitely going on. Martin folded his paper. "How is everything going with what is it you do again?" Natalie closed her eyes, not wanting to explain what event planning was again, but she did anyway to be polite. "And that's going well?" "It is. The company is doing well, and we're getting ready for the holiday rush." She put jam on her croissant and shut her mouth. Too much information would invite the trouble of more questions. Sherry forced and twisted her face into a grimace-like smile. "Do you have plans for Thanksgiving, Natalie? We thought it would be nice if you could join us because, she cleared her throat. "Well, since you are our dog," choked on her piece of fruit. Natalie stared at her like she had grown another arm. Martin reached over and patted Sherry's hand. "What your mother is trying to say?" That was it. She was clearly in an alternative universe. Natalie stood and pulled her check from her purse. "I don't know what is going on here or what you are up to, but this is like some weird on Golden Pond stuff, and I don't want anything to do with it. There's my money, just like we agreed. Thanks for breakfast and the show, but I'm done." She was almost to the door when she heard them move, frantically following her and reaching her in the hallway. "Natalie, wait," Martin said. She stopped for a moment to put on her coat. "Take your check back, Natalie." She paused and turned around. her suspicion growing even more. Why? He walked forward and shoved it in Natalie's hand, and she awkwardly took it. Just take it. Natalie's face had contorted into a strange. Was she crying? What was going on? I know we weren't good parents to you and Chloe, Martin started. What is this? Natalie demanded. Just listen. Thanks, Natalie yelled. Are you talking about the time when all Chloe and I wanted was one birthday party and you forgot our birthdays? He looked away. Or how about the time Miss Gladys from across the street gave Chloe and me a Christmas present and you and Sherry put it away for us to open on Christmas and then lost it? Or the time I was in the second grade play and everyone else's parents showed up except for mine. And my teacher, Mrs. Miller, had to sit in Sherry's reserved seat. Were those all mistakes? Sherry openly sobbed. But Natalie didn't care. These weren't mistakes. They were deliberate cruelties to a child. Natalie. Chloe and I didn't need perfection, Martin. You took us from an orphanage. All we needed was love. You couldn't even give us that. We couldn't even have a mom or a dad. All we got was a Sherry and a Martin. Natalie looked at them confused. And now you want me to explain? She snorted. No, you don't get to do that. She turned to the door and stepped outside, the crisp sunshine greeting her. Sherry is dying. The door closed softly, even sadly, behind her. Hey, Streetlights, what's going on? Thank you for letting me read it. Chapter 2. Natalie looked up at the sky and sighed. Martin wasn't one for dramatics, so she knew it was true. Sherry was dying. So now what? She walked back to her car and, trying to feel guilty that she didn't spend the full 90 minutes with Martin and Sherry, started the drive back to her own townhome. Dialing Chloe's number and connecting her Bluetooth, she waited for her sister to answer. Wait, why are you so early? Did they drop Dad? Her sister's cheerful voice filled her car. Chloe, my God, Natalie snorted. You either don't know, in which case I have news, or you do know and you don't care. What are you talking about? Have you talked to them at all? I don't talk to them. I won't. Martin has called every other day for the last 2 weeks, so I know they're alive. Natalie drove through town, autumn reds and yellows flashing by outside her window, and debated telling Chloe herself or telling her to talk to Martin. Her sister's laugh made up her mind. How did you escape breakfast so early anyway? I guess Sherry is dying, Chloe. Chloe? She's dying? Chloe nearly whispered. Awkwardness that morning, including their attempt at calling them their daughters. Chloe was suddenly angry. Son of a... Ugh! Do they really think they can just apologize? I know, Chloe. Natalie pulled into her garage and thought back to the late night conversations they'd had about how they might react if this day had come. How might they feel if Martin and Sherry had somehow finally recognized the years of damage they had inflicted on their 2 adopted daughters? Would we even forgive them, Nat? Chloe had whispered years ago when they were teenagers. I don't know. I don't know if I can. Natalie stared at the ceiling of their shared bedroom. Could they be the better people and accept their apologies? Martin and Sherry had never physically hurt them, nor had they ever said mean things to them. She and Chloe were provided for, but the absence of affection had stripped away layer by layer their belief in themselves and anything magical. Natalie wondered if this could ever be apologized for. Chloe was silent. I wouldn't. I'm going to leave here and never come back. They won't have a chance to apologize. She was determined, and Natalie believed her. Her sister never said things she didn't mean. Maybe if they apologize, it'll mean. Natalie's voice trailed off. What? She sighed. I just mean, maybe if they're sorry, it'll show that we really are worth loving. Natalie angrily wiped at the tears in her eyes. Martin and Sherry weren't worth crying over. With stilly resolve, Chloe said, we don't have to wait for their apology for that, Nat. We love each other, and that's worth everything. Her sister's tears echoed through the car, bringing her back to the present. There aren't take-backs for something like this, Natalie. Her whisper bounced across the interior and hit her chest. I'm sorry, sis. Don't be. You're my only family. Natalie's heart ached. Natalie ignored the voicemail from Martin on her phone the next morning and instead focused on the sketch pad on her desk. She would call him back later that night once she got home. They were approaching the busiest time of year at work, and she felt like a kindergartner attempting trigonometry. How does someone who hates Christmas plan festive and joyous Christmas parties? This is literally the worst time of year ever, she groaned and leaned back in her chair. Caroline walked up next to her. Don't let Victoria hear you say that. She loves the holidays. This is her favorite time of year. Victoria breezed into the office holding a fall wreath and cornucopia. Don't let me hear what? I just don't see why the holidays are such a big deal. I mean, the business makes a lot of money, so I get why it's a big deal for us. I just don't know why everyone gets so excited about it. She frowned, shading the corner of her sketchbook. Oh, someone's a Grinch, Victoria laughed. I'm not a Grinch. I'm just realistic. Natalie shrugged. Thanksgiving and Christmas are literally just normal days we've set aside to eat something different and hang decorations on a tree. It's just weird. Well, I hope you're putting more thought into the Macintosh's Christmas party than just decorations on a tree. That's a huge account for us. Natalie had hoped Victoria wouldn't ask about that, and she spun around on her chair to face her desktop again. Victoria stepped behind her and spotted her sketchpad. She pointed at the drawing. I see a table with a poinsettia in the center. Come see me in my office. Victoria turned on her stilettos and walked away, stopping at her office door to hang the wreath before entering. Natalie dropped her head to her desk. You're not getting fired. Keeping her head down, she mumbled, how do you know? Victoria doesn't fire people right away. She gives too many chances. She pushed up her cardigan sleeves and pulled out her sketch pad. Natalie groaned again and pulled herself up from her desk. Just because you're my best friend doesn't mean you can be right all the time. Straightening her dress and adjusting her hair, Natalie tentatively knocked on Victoria's door. Come in, Natalie. And like a private library than an office. She had an ornate desk she rarely used. At least Natalie had never seen her sitting behind it. Instead, Victoria opted to sit on the oversized love seat and wingback chairs that reached in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. Natalie found her sitting in one of the wingbacks with a blanket over her lap, gesturing for Natalie to sit in one of the other sit in one of the chairs. Come have a seat, Natalie, and tell me why you hate Christmas. Chapter 3. Let's see. Hey, Lacey Ann. Jackie's in the house. Where's my pictures? Chapter 3. Natalie. Let's see. Natalie slowly sat down and thought about what she should say to Victoria. The woman had an uncanny ability to detect dishonesty the moment it entered her vicinity. So Natalie couldn't just lie and say she loved Christmas. Victoria patted her gray updo. She was of the indeterminate age, and Natalie always thought Victoria would make a perfect fairy godmother. How about you start with the truth? It'll be so much easier on both of us. She took off her glasses and gave Natalie her full attention. So much for bending the truth. It's not so much that I hate Christmas, Victoria. Her boss raised an eyebrow. Eyeball. Is an eyebrow. She hurried on. It's that my sister and I weren't raised conventionally. Victoria waited for more, and when Natalie didn't comply, she raised an eyebrow. Please continue. Our adopted parents didn't believe in celebrating holidays or birthdays, not for any religious reasons, but because they didn't believe in observing them. I mean, I guess that's why they believed what they believed. Holidays were just sort of forgotten. Quietly, she added, Chloe and I were forgotten. Perhaps it was the news of Sherry's impending death, or not knowing what to do with an out-of-place apology. But Natalie found herself telling Victoria everything about how she and Chloe were raised. Victoria listened to Natalie's experiences and didn't interrupt. She only got up once to retrieve the tissue box from her desk when Natalie's tears threatened to fall. I don't understand Christmas. It's supposed to be this joyful and magical time, but it was always miserable for us. School was the only place we felt normal, but we didn't have school at Christmas because it was on break for 2 weeks. We were left on our own in a house where we were ignored. We only had each other. Well, you certainly have had a lot on your heart and chest for many years, Natalie. I'm glad you let all this go. Now, what to do about this? Victoria tapped a finger against her lips. Oh, I thought she was tapping it on the desk. Her brows knitted together contemplatively. Sorry? We can't have you going around not understanding Christmas, especially when we're in the business of celebrating the holidays, can we? We need festive and trees and reindeer. And of course, we need to lighten your heart a little bit along the way. Victoria chuckled. Natalie was confused. So what do you have in mind? Victoria's bright blue eyes twinkled with delight as she patted her hair again to make sure nothing was out of place. Why, we're going to have you work with Santa Claus, of course. Panic swelled in Natalie's chest. I feel like I'm sounding like Mickey Mouse the longer I go with it. Excuse me. I figured the yawns had to kick in here sometimes. They always do it when I read. Panic swelled in Natalie's chest, and her heartbeat thundered in her ears. I'm sorry, but what? The best way for you to understand the spirit of Christmas is by working directly with the father of the holidays. Lucky for you, my brother-in-law is Santa Claus. Victoria's eyes beamed and her smile lit up the office. Please forgive me, y'all. I haven't done that in a long time. Okay, it means I'll get some sleep tonight. Victoria smiled. I'm sorry, but what? Natalie repeated, unable to grasp Victoria's sudden excitement. Victoria smiled patiently. My, my brother-in-law is bringing his assistant with him next week so they can begin building his enchanted forest at North Point Mall. I help him set it up every year, and this year you will join me. After it is completed, you will be one of his elves and learn to love Christmas. She clapped her hands thoroughly delighted. Oh, Lord, that would make me hate Christmas more than I do now. Natalie fought the urge to vomit at thought of mall decorations surrounding her, along with fake snow and children. Victoria, this really necessary? I mean, can I just study some magazines or look at some online videos? You did that in school and you gave me a poinsettia on a table. But what about my work here? I can't expect Caroline to do everything while I'm playing elf, Natalie practically begged. Nonsense. You will work as an elf in the afternoon and evening, and you will work here in the morning. Santa won't expect you until after lunch anyway. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. Dang it. Once Victoria made a decision, there was no dissuading her. Thank you for the opportunity, Victoria, she mumbled. Of course, Natalie. We will build the forest starting next week. Wear clothes that you can get dirty. Victoria picked up her phone to make a call, and Natalie took the hint to leave. She groaned inwardly and walked back to her desk, dramatically burying her head in her arms. Caroline didn't even look up from her work. I told you, you're not fired. Natalie flipped off her friend, went back to burying her head. My favorite sign. How bad could it possibly be? It's so bad. Caroline put her pencil down, walked over to her friend, and sat on the desk. Come on, Nat, tell me, she urged, stroking Natalie's hair. I have to be an elf for Santa? She froze. I'm sorry, but what? Chapter 4. This will be the last chapter. I don't want to give too much away. Yeah, that'll be about right. The mall had been closed for an hour. Natalie had watched the last of the employees filter out of the side doors for the last 15 minutes before she finally had enough courage to meet Victoria and her brother-in-law inside. North Point Mall hosted Santa every year, and Santa was found in his enchanted forest, but obviously Natalie had never seen him as a child. Victoria had explained that her brother-in-law volunteered his time and services to North Point every year and had been doing this for as long as she had known him, which seemed like a while considering how seasoned Victoria was. Victoria greeted her, eyes sparkling as usual, and welcomed Natalie with a warm hug. I think it's because I ate just before I came in here, and it's making me sleepy. Big Daddy didn't get home until almost 7 o'clock. Good thing I didn't cook tonight. He had to bring supper. Okay. She hurried her inside and took her coat. You're just in time. We just started opening the crates. Taken in bed, Natalie was suddenly self-conscious in her ripped jeans and a paint-stained sweatshirt. Am I dressed okay? Of course, dear. Victoria patted her hand. Now, let's get to work. She handed her a crowbar and walked over to a young man about Natalie's age. He laughed and his face lit up with natural good humor. This is Mason, dear Santa's assistant. He comes with my brother-in-law every year, and we are so lucky he does. Mason, this is Santa's helper this year. She's my employee, so be good to her. Victoria smiled. Uh, Hi, Natalie. Welcome to Santa's Enchanted Forest. He motioned around him. Natalie's eyebrows came together, and she leaned into him and pointed at his chest. How did you know my name? Victoria didn't tell you my name. Mason looked uncomfortable, more than likely because her finger was drilling a hole into breastbone. Victoria told us about you before you got here. Sorry. He backed away and straightened his sweater. Would you rather I call you something else? She groaned, feeling ridiculous. No, that is fine. I'm sorry. You probably think I'm a lunatic. Maybe. I'm just with gesture to everything around her. All of this. I get it. It must be a little like walking into a freak show right now after a life of not liking Christmas. He laughed but stopped suddenly, looking at her with alarm. How? Backing away slowly and out of arm's reach, Mason stammered. I'm going to go tell Santa you're here. Still holding the crowbar, Natalie stood in the middle of a sea of crates and boxes and wondered at the chaos around her. It seemed everyone knew everything about her. Poised and polished, Victoria was prying lids off wooden crates, and everyone called the boss Santa. This was literally the most bizarre experience of her life. A voice boomed behind her. Ho, 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 this is Natalie? Natalie turned around and came face to face with Santa Claus. Of course, it wasn't the real Santa Claus. That would be, I don't know that word. Partial? I don't know that word. Let's see if I can get typed down there. Y'all can laugh at me because I don't know this word. Is it like a farce? This man was elfin, with his rosy cheeks and delight-filled blue eyes. His balding head was graced with cotton-like white hair that swirled the circumference as if playing a game of ring around a rosy. And his beard was downy white, resting below the clavicle in a perfect swoop from one ear to the next. It wasn't polite to comment on a person's weight, she knew, but it did appear the man before her had enjoyed a few cookies in his lifetime. If he were wearing St. Nick's red velvet suit with fur cuffs and a hat, Natalie would have to question everything she'd ever thought false in her life, for surely they were real. But this man simply wore jeans and a flannel. No, this was actually the most bizarre experience of her life. Hi, yes, I'm Natalie. Mr. Natalie didn't know what to say. Everyone calls me Santa. He laughed another genuine laugh, clear from his belly to the backs of his eyes. Oh, okay, Santa. And was bonkerballs. It's nice to meet you. My sister-in-law says you're in need of some Christmas spirit. The man spoke heartily. There was no doubting his charisma. His neighbors probably all thinking of Santa like he was a serial killer. What was wrong with her? Yes, I think I do need Christmas spirit, Santa. A little Christmas spirit wouldn't, kill her. Caroline and Chloe exchanged knowing glances at breakfast the next morning while Natalie attempted to avoid their gazes. Finally, Caroline broke the silence. So, how did it go last night? Natalie slowly buttered her toast, knowing Caroline and Chloe were waiting for her response. She deliberately chose her words. It was fine. I waited until everyone left the mall and Victoria let me in. Did you know Victoria's idea of dressing to build stuff is overalls and penny loafers? I mean, she was adorable, but I felt like a slob next to her. I don't think that's what Caroline meant, Natalie. Chloe narrowed her eyes. She always knew when Natalie wasn't telling the whole truth. She sighed. It was weird, okay? She threw her toast onto her plate and took a sip of her mocha. It's like I'm an elf caterpillar suffocating in a Christmas cocoon. And there's a guy there, Mason. He has hair and eyes and freckles and was wearing a button-down shirt that made his eyes look sparkly and his freckles look freckly. And Mason seems like he can do nothing wrong. He just touches the crate and it not only opens, but everything inside will just come together in no time. I swear he's magical or something. I watched him open a crate with Santa's shop inside. And then I turned to ask Victoria something. When I turned back to help Mason build this thing, it was already done. I don't know how he did it, but there's something weird there. The girls looked at each other and Chloe leaned forward. Okay, take a deep breath. You need to slow down, Natalie. We don't know what you're talking about right now. Caroline shrugged. You sound deranged. Chloe snorted. Well, she does. She shrugged and finished chewing. Sparkling eyes and freckly freckles? Touching crates and things that build themselves? What are you even talking about? The last thing you said that made any sense was Victoria was wearing penny loafers. Natalie glared at her. I stayed awake all night last night trying to figure it out, and I don't know how Mason could work so fast. Maybe he's an elf, Caroline offered dismissively. You haven't said anything about Santa, Chloe said. Natalie went quiet. Why hadn't she mentioned Santa? Between his jolly shouts of ho, 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 and the genuine kindness, Natalie didn't know what she could say about him. She felt protective of him, though. Santa is just what you think him to be, she finally said. Chloe stared at her hard. A con man trying to sell a lie to little children? Cool. No. Think of their bright eyes, white beard, big belly, and generosity. I'm having a hard time talking tonight. That's the man I met last night. Take her temperature, Caroline. She's got a fever. Caroline held her cup and tapped it with her fingers. Maybe this is the real Santa, Nat. He's come to teach you about Christmas. No comment from the peanut galleries, huh? Natalie snorted. Sure, Santa Claus is working at North Point Mall. Caroline threw part of her muffin at Natalie. I'm serious. Maybe you should start believing in Christmas miracles. Chloe rolled her eyes. Or maybe you've lost your mind and the man is just committed to his seasonal job. At least Mason sounds cute. Natalie shrugged. I guess, for a miracle crate opener and builder. You guess? You seem pretty flustered by him, Nat, Chloe teased. Just enjoy what you can from the experience. It'll be over before you know it. Besides, how bad can it be? She became serious and set her coffee. Called Martin back. I'm going to the ladies' room. Caroline scooted back her chair and left. Natalie smiled. Her friend always knew what was needed. After a few beats, Chloe cleared her throat. He gave me more information about Sherry. Natalie frowned. Other than Sherry's prognosis, she didn't know what was actually wrong with her. Oh, what did he say? He said they found a tumor during her last mammogram and the biopsy came back malignant. The cancer has already spread to her lymph nodes and everything. Chloe looked up at her sister. She probably doesn't have a lot of time, Martin said, since the cancer has spread to other organs as well. Tears stung Natalie's eyes. She still felt anger toward Martin and Sherry, but her feelings were complicated now that Sherry was dying. Chloe sighed. I don't know what to feel. I still have so much anger, you know? I do. Maybe we should talk to someone. Who? Like a therapist? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe. Chloe was silent. You've got enough going on right now playing elf. True. Natalie avoided her eyes. Caroline walked up to the table and, having heard the last part, said, I'm sure Mason can help you avoid whatever problem is occupying your life. Natalie threw a whole blueberry muffin at her, hitting her in the face. Throw me the blueberry muffins. I could eat them every day. Oh, I love those things. Hey, it was just a suggestion. Come on. Everything in my house is moving slow today. My internet's slow. I have like one sentence to read. And it won't turn because it flipped too fast. It's the only time it's done that all day. Okay, so I guess my Kindle's frozen up now. Pretty good timing. I knew we have time to get another one chapter in. So that gets you guys to the first 4 chapters of the book. It's called Literally Christmas by Streetlights. And I think Nina put all the pertinent information up there. And it's book 1. It's 99 cents and it's on KU. And it's book 1 of the Christmas Claus. And it sounds really cute. So you guys need to go get the book, read it, and leave a review. Now then, tomorrow night is Dance With Me, book 2 in the Neva Dance Studio. Oh, book 1 by Alex J. Adams. So come tomorrow night and check out book 1. All right, ladies, have a great evening. I'm going to go pick up Big Daddy some more before I go to bed and finish my vampire book. I'm on book 6 of the series since the last book. I won't finish it tonight. Hoping to get it finished tomorrow night, though. So, Good evening. Love you, ladies, and happy reading.